Good morning, this is a foreigner in the Philippines. Well, after I had a couple of trips where under normal circumstances they might have been quite stressful. A few years ago the thought of going to a supermarket or a store with 17 children would have would have caused me a little bit of concern. But since I came to the Philippines, I've learned to sail through those things and not get annoyed. I think that's probably the difference between Western and Asian people. Well, let's not say, I won't say that I'm so experienced with all Asian people, but certainly in the last few years I've become experienced with Filipino people. And actually, the very thing that most foreigners find annoying is the fact that Filipinos don't get so easily annoyed. And I have expat friends who say, well, if you don't complain, nothing will ever change. And that's a Western approach to life, which actually turns back in. It has a side effect on the person who's getting annoyed that person is unaware of, because they're feeling the stress of stating a situation that does not agree with them, does not sit well with them. In other words, they're getting stressed by it. Well, a good example of this was when we were in Tagbilaran, and I jokingly call our GPS a neurotic GPS. If you've got one of those GPSs that talks to you, it will say in a very calm, almost robotic voice, it will say, turn left at Green Road, 1 meter, and then when you pass Green Road it says reconfigure, still calm, reconfigure, turn left at Brown Road, 1 meter, and it will say this, and it will be very calm, of course. Well, I travelled with my son a little when I first arrived here, and we travelled in a car with someone who never had a driver, who never agreed with the GPS, and my son Theo and I used to joke about this and say, in the end, so you'd had the GPS will be saying, turn left at Green Road, 1 meter, and then when that didn't happen it would say again, reconfigure, turn left at Brown Road, and then when you go past Brown Road it would say reconfigure, but in the end, if it had any human characteristics, it would be saying, for God's sake, either listen or switch me off. And that's a little bit like the Western view of things. When they get out here, they want to put everything right. Well, excuse me, sir, the pudding doesn't come first. We have the main meal first, and before we have the main meal, we have what's called starters, and they are what are called starters for a very good reason. They start the meal. And so they try to put everything right, and they do it by complaining. And Filipinos know all of this. In fact, when I got a little piece of metal in my eye working on the house, because I'm drilling holes in metal stud, and you get these very, very fine pieces of metal flying off, and I'm not wearing glasses, and I wore glasses after that, I can tell you. When I got a little piece of metal in my eye, well, we went to the local optician, who actually turned out to be a very capable man. He he examined my eyes and said, yes, you have several tiny pieces of metal in your eye, and they will have to be taken out. And Beth said, because she's talking in his language, can you, oh, that's great, can you do it now? And he said, no, I can do it, but I will say no in this case, because your husband is a foreigner. And Beth said, well, does that mean his eye is different? And the man smiled and said, no, it doesn't. What it means is that he can cause me a lot of trouble if I make a tiny mistake. He probably has the money to take a case against me, and it's just not worth it. So he referred us to a place in Tagbilaran, and off we went to Tagbilaran, and I had the job done very, very well. Well, what's the difference between the way that a Filipino would react to something then and the way that a Westerner would act? Well, the Westerner would try to have everything perfect. You know, well, just a minute, the fries are not hot, the coffee is not hot, can you change it? And the Filipino will look and say, yes, certainly, sir. And they take the fries away and they bring back some, well, not hot fries, but certainly hotter. It's all a matter of degree, isn't it? See, but I can imagine the Filipinos back there going back with these fries that are not quite hot enough and saying, it's a foreigner, just give him the other ones, you know. And then to an aside, they'd say, what the heck is wrong with fries that aren't quite hot? They just don't understand why anybody would bother to make their life such a misery. Well, that's based on that things are different here in the Philippines. For instance, most of the food that they eat is cold. Now, when our guests, our recent visitors who've gone back now and who we miss very much, Consuelo, when they were here, they invited us over. Why don't you come over for breakfast at the resort, because we'll be leaving early. So I said, great, we'll be over in a little while. And that little while was, say, 15 or 20 minutes drive once we reached the main road. So we text them and say, yes, we're on our way now. And when we got there, I had a breakfast that had started off life hot and had been put the cling film on it so that it was nice and fresh, and I ate my hot breakfast cold, and that's nothing unusual. That's the way that it would be done in the Philippines. Did I go and do my Western thing of I can't eat that, it's cold? No, I didn't. I've learned differently. I've learned a different way. Well, when we were in Tagbilaran, to get back to my original point, when we were in Tagbilaran, we got the GPS going, and Beth is telling me left and right. The only problem is that Beth doesn't know her left from her right, so often we went left when we should have gone right, and right when we should have gone straight. And can you just turn around? That's another familiar thing. Yes, are you sure we're going the right way? Yes, we are, but you'll have to turn around and go the other way. Okay? So now we've got two people in the back by this time. After we dropped the ladies off at the airport, we've got our two people in the back who are going for an operation. It's not that comfortable in the back of our truck, but nobody complains, and so it's still the same. We're not getting any better because nobody complains. See, so we're going the wrong way, so we stop somewhere and we turn around, because obviously on this big road in Tagbilaran, they've learned some of the Western ways of dealing with traffic, and now they have no left turns, no left turn, no left turn, no U-turn, no U-turn, and you just keep going and going, and in the end you have to turn into somebody's parking lot or on somebody's forecourt and do an illegal turn. Well, anyway, we're going, and at one point we're driving around. We're on the way to one of the hospitals, and we're driving around in the parking lot, the huge parking lot of the ICM mall, with the help of the GPS, which by now would have said, for God's sake, you're in the parking lot, why didn't you turn left at Brown Road? That's what it would have said if it had been programmed by a Westerner, but it didn't say that. It just said reconfigure. And then we eventually got there. Oh, by the way, I got after many years, I drove to Tagbilaran. I got my first parking ticket, but it doesn't say how much the parking ticket is. So now I know that I have a citation, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. And I said to Beth, well, does it say how much it is and where I got to pay it? And she said, no, it doesn't. There's no prices on it at all. So I guess that will sit until I go in and register the car again, and then I'll get a penalty. Heaven knows what that will be and whether it's getting bigger or not, but I won't complain. I'll just pay it up because I'm learning now to, well, I think I'm learning to be a little bit nicer. I still remember as one of my favourite quotes, which I will leave you with, was George Burns, the American comedian. And he was 84, and they asked him, he was at the Oscars with two 24-year-old ladies, starlets as they used to call them, and they said, George, how do you do it? You always seem so happy and at ease. Nothing ever seems to bother you. And he said, I try to get through every day with the least amount of aggravation possible. That's a good quote to leave you with. So, this is a foreigner living in the Philippines without complaint. Well, most of the time. Bye for now.